Hi everybody, welcome to the Lyle Finley Wild True Stories and Testimonies on YouTube. Welcome. This is Lyle's channel. Becky says I can have it. Alright, you notice things different, eh? Well, those are still the same, right? That one, that one, that one there that you see, partial of it. I'll show you one day on an opening video. But I got that when I helped clean out a building, and the guy that was scamming everybody in the building left a lot of possessions behind, and everybody in the building got to take back what that person was stealing and scamming from them. And this was left behind on a cleanup of a building. So that deer picture there, right, of that buck, that's a true story and testimony. That's about about 28 years ago. Eagle Labor Independent, right? I was busy hard at it, doing it. But that's a true story and testimony to that picture up there. But that's not why I jumped on the Lyle Finley Wild channel and true story and testimony. Well, here's a true story. Okay, well, I'm reflecting back on my youth days, eh? When I used to live up in Tompsson, Mannatoba, when I was a kid, just before I moved in with my dad and that. Well, my dad, actually, no, actually. Okay, well, I'll be honest with you. I was the kid that was always picked on in school when I was younger, in Burntwood School. All right, that's what they called it, eh? Well, one day I got so tired of getting picked on and that. After school, because it was all intermittent grades in the school, and there's this grade 12 and a grade 10 and a grade 7. They're all each individual kid, eh? And they challenged me one day. I got tired of them picking on me and bullying me and pushing me around, eh? And so I said, okay, I'll get you. The grade said, I'll be waiting for you after school. I says, okay, you be there. I'll be there just after I finish my stamp collection. I was in stamp class, right? After school, right? So sure enough, there he was, right? And his two other buddies, and there was somebody else, and there's a crowd of people, right? Well, I jump on the big guy, and I started boom, 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 beating the shit out of him, right? Meanwhile, all his buddies and all his friends whoa, they all ran and scattered, eh? Hey, meanwhile, I'm there freaking defending myself, fighting off these freaking arseholes. I got tired of it. Got tired of getting pushed around and getting bullied, eh? Yeah, I was up in Tompsson, Manitoba. Back then, you made your way. You made your bones, right? Like, I used to have to, when I was going to school, right? Because we have to go cut through a trail and that, and the trees, and when I used to live on 115 Deerwood Drive, right? And I forget the name of the school, but I was terrified. And they knew it, these kids, eh? Because when you show fear, everybody's going to be picking on you, eh? And I was terrified. I was praying all the time going to school, right? And that, and I'd always try to time it, figure out, okay, they're on their way that way, they won't pick on me there. So I'd run really quick to class, and and everybody that went to this school had to cut through that trail in the forest, eh? And I'm like, oh, I made it, right? Well, one day they said, we'll get that Lyle, we'll get him good, right? And this is before I went to Burntwood School, right? And they came at me, they're chasing me, right? Running after me, and I deked them out every time, right? And this time I deked them out so much, right? One of them, I laugh too to this day. One of them freaking ran right into a tree. Busted his own nose, eh? And the guy that was living in behind the street, like I don't know if it's still there anymore, but our house was the only baby blue house on down there, eh? On 115 Deerwood Drive. My native friends across the street, they're good people, eh? I remember them, we had our own little fort and we had our own little thing, eh? And one day we were playing in that, and we had to jump the fence because something I don't know, but we had to jump the fence, eh? And I got stuck up on the fence, and there's a big spike hanging out, and it jammed right up in there on my arm, and my arm's hanging up like this, right? And I'm just like, and I'm in a lot of pain and all that, right? And so my native friend said, "What'd you do? Look at what happened." So he decides he's had a little 22 gun, eh, on him. He shot the nail, eh, with his gun, ping, and they broke the nail, and then went in to see his mom, and his mom pulling out that spike, and then I said, you go home and I went across the street and went to see. I was taken to the hospital. They said, "You want stitches?" I said, "No." I never had stitches when I was like that, but yeah, back in those days, you're allowed to carry a one-shot 22, eh? Because there's polar bears and there's coyotes, and kids you're allowed to up then. Back in those days, right? This is the 70s, early 70s. But I never did. I never carried a gun, weapon, or anything, eh? But there was people that lived on the street right behind us on 115 Deerwood Drive, like a few doors. And across the street was I had this girl named Shelley Didluck. I don't know if she's still around or whatever, but I picked her as my babysitter, right? She was a good babysitter. Anyways, long story short, yeah, she was good to me, right? And there's this people a few houses up, and everybody knew about them. I didn't know too much about them. All I know is there's an awful stench all the time coming from their backyard, eh? And I could smell it coming to our yard, eh? So I decided to go look and see why, eh? Oh, there's deer carcasses, bear carcasses, and that hanging, eh? And their skins, and they're skinned, eh? And their meat was just hanging. It looked like, and a young kid, yeah, seeing that, eh? And like, but this guy is known for if you did a hunt or whatever, he'd skin your meat for you and that, and he'd tan the hides and all that, and he'd take the meat and to the butchers down on the other side of the street, eh? But that's the way we did it. But I always thought, oh geez, but they weren't poachers or anything. It was a legit thing, eh? Well, they caught me in their yard. "What are you doing back here?" I said, "Oh, I'm just wondering where that stink is coming from. Now I know." "Oh, get out of my yard." I said, sorry for being that way. I apologize. I said, "Don't let it happen again." Right? I said, "Okay." That's true story and testimony when I was a kid, eh? Yeah. Growing up, and I had a choice at a young age. I told you this true story and testimony about how my mom, how she always whipped me or put an extension, those extension cords you use for frying pans and that, right? Well, she'd and I was the age of 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and I had to put up with that all the time. If I misbehaved or whatever, she'd take the electrical cord and whip me on the ass or on my back, and that so hard with that, like bent in half. She'd go through so many wooden spoons, right? And I'll go stand in the corner. Go stand in the corner. Huh? Yeah. Anyways, that's my mom. I don't even know how she got a position back, but you got to remember back in those days, corporal punishment was permitted in households, eh? And I don't know. I don't even know to this day how my mom ever friggin' managed to be a nurse. I had a choice at a young age who to live with, and I chose my dad. I was getting tired of the mental abuse and you know, my dad gave up shortly after me living with him for a while, and that he gave up his alcoholism, and he became a workaholic. And yeah, and I was proud of him for doing that. That's the only thing I was proud of him ever doing in his life. But it was hard and not easy growing up with, you know. Yeah, so that's why to this day I have a little bit of, I'm not joking, I do have a little bit of phobia of electrical cords, like, you know, ones you plug into for your electric frying pans and stuff like that, you know. But that's my thing, eh? That's true story and testimony, all right, of how you stand up to your bullies, and and my way of escaping back then when my mom would do that was go to Scouts Canada and make something of myself, and I did. I did. I told you all the true story and testimony of that. But anyways, this is going to be a long video, so and my wife Becky knows that I have a phobia of that. She knows. She wondered to this day why we only have one plug-in for our electric frying pan. We don't have any other plug-in kitchen cords for anything. They're all attached to things. But my wife understands, right, Becky, and I understand about her phobia. That's not for me to talk about. That's for her one day when she wants to open up and share it on her channel. She's got Lyle and Becky Day to Day and Lyle and Becky. So that's for her to do whenever she feels comfortable doing something like that, you know. But yeah, so that's a true story testimony of me, and when I was younger, growing up, and when I had a choice then, when I chose, well, that was when we were living up Tompsson. My dad came pick me up in a semi up in Tompsson. He got a trip up there, and he says, all I had was two suitcases and a box. That's it. And I didn't look back. I didn't look back. I was actually happy to be away from the mental abuse that she put me through at a young age. And she says, oh, she's a single mom. Nah, well, she didn't have to be doing that to me at age 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9. You know, and there's things I had to, her lungs felt congested. I'd have to go like this to her chest. Right? Oh, yeah. Friggin', I was just, Mom, I know she watches this Lyle Finley Wild channel. And she tried to get back into my life, and you know, I honor my. It says in the Bible, honor my mother and father. Right? Okay, I do, but that's unforgivable for what she did to me at a young age. No child should ever have to live like that. And I had to choose. I had to give up all. I had one friend, and is my native chief's son, up in Tompsson, Mannatoba, by Brentwood School. And yeah, I'll tell you true stories of. Well, I was allowed to trap on the borderline of the reserve. And yeah, I'll tell you a true story one day about that. But for now, this is closure for me, right?